Welcome to the CTOGuy Buzzword series on HTML. I am your host, Ben Alfrey, your virtual CTO. Today we're going to talk about HTML and what it means to your company. This isn't a tutorial on how to become an HTML programmer. It's just to give you a little bit of a primer so that when you hear the word HTML, you know what people are talking about. HTML, Hypertext Markup Language, is what it stands for. Here we are at CodePen. They should give me money for how often I use them in my demos. And we're at an empty screen. So HTML is the language that powers the web. It looks like this. Everything happens in angle brackets, HTML, like that. The simplest thing that you could do that is a valid HTML document is say hello world, like that. And let's let that refresh and you can see it down here, hello world, okay? So we have just created a web page and I could host this somewhere and you could I could buy a domain and you could go see it, right? I mean, this is it. This is how the web began. And by the way, if you don't know what HTML is, I don't know where you've been for the last 20 years, probably on a high mountain in the Himalayas, working with the gurus up there, and I really, really admire that you don't know what HTML is. What a life you must have. Oh, it must be so great. Anyway, here's HTML. HTML has a few constructs which are largely holdovers from back in the days where we just had static information that we wanted to publish. Static meaning doesn't change every time you browse to it, doesn't change whether you're logged in or logged out. You can't post comments, nothing like that. So we have things called headings, heading level 1. And that's called an H1 tag. We have things called paragraphs. This is a paragraph. Okay, if I can spell paragraph correctly. And we'll close that tag. We have heading level 2s. Heading level 2, right? Here is another paragraph, right? We have something called an ordered list where we have items. First item. Okay, we'll close that. Second item, we'll close that, oh well. And look what that did down here, 1 and 2. We have things called unordered lists, where here is another first item, and here is another second item. Okay. And we'll remember to close those tags because that matters. These closing tags have a lot to do with how cross-browser compatible your HTML is. Meaning if you view it in Chrome or you view it in Safari or in Firefox or in Internet Explorer, depending on whether you remember to close your tags or not and have syntactically correct HTML, it matters for making your web page appear the same no matter what browser people are using to view it. HTML also supports the concept of a table. Here's a table row and some table data. Cell 1. Some more table data. Cell 2. And we will end that table row. And we will end that table. And let's take a look down here. Cell 1, cell 2. Let's go ahead and copy that table row and make cell 3 and cell 4. And now look what we've done. We have cell 3 and cell 4 down there. It doesn't really look like a table yet. Let's put a border equals 1 on here. We'll put the 1 in quotes just to be technically correct. And now we see that. Maybe we have cell spacing equals, let's give it 5 pixels of cell spacing and see what happens. That makes the margins between the cells a little bigger. Cell padding, let's give 10 pixels of cell padding and see how that changes things. And bingo, there we go. So this is a little HTML. Now, remember I said these are all holdovers from days gone by when HTML was meant to just describe text documents. It was a markup language for text, hypertext markup language. However, HTML has evolved into a complete application user interface language, along with a few other technologies. CSS, and JavaScript. That's what really made the web come alive. That's where you see all the modern user interfaces today. So I'm done talking about HTML until I can talk about some of those other technologies, and then we can get into some really crazy advanced HTML stuff.